Hello, folks. Today, Peter and I will be talking about something that many businesses have to deal with. It's called communication and forms. We're often asked to get a whole load of data when we actually deal with people. Forms for registration, forms for services that we might be offering, or quotes. This particular video we will go into the journey of what the LLMs tell us about the forms, about GDPR, and about the very specific issues that you might encounter in the process of actually putting your business communications in place. You may have very specific requirements from your profession and various clauses we have to take into consideration from those forms. So let's go and find out Peter's direction on forms and some of the solutions that Peter and I will look at. So one of the things we need to look at, obviously, within forms, as you rightly say, within the UK is GDPR,
Yeah.
which is an obvious factor. So whenever we're looking at that, what probably we need to do, and bear with me as I do a straightforward, excuse me, I pressed the wrong button too quickly. That never happens to you, does it, Peter? Right, hopefully we're going to see in a minute the right setup that I need. Bear with me. I love technology. I think I said that last time. So I need the background there, and rather than sharing everything else under the sun, we have something called we've got ChatGPT. How can we generate a business form that would be going to move on my screen? I'm not sure how it works on your screen, but move it over there so I can actually see what I'm typing. How would that be? So a form that will be GDPR compliant,
Yep.
and what information do we need in that form?
hmm
So how would you do, how what sort of information would we normally require within a form?
So how can I generate that easily and ideally for free?
So can Google Forms undertake it? Uh, um, do you need it to be on a website or does it need to be in a PDF?
Um, so my bit of research on Gemini before I come on,
Mhm.
um, did a couple of sites that are potentially free, only with limitations, of course, very limited use. People can sign the docs, so then you'd upload these. So once I'd written them, made sure that the content was proper. Then I could
Yeah,
upload them as PDFs, send them to people as sites,
that's it.
and then they can click to sign and then do proper signatures on them.
Okay, so there are a couple of options here that immediately come to my mind. If you generate or create a form with something called HTML, it can be embedded, as can obviously Google Forms. So Google Forms can reach a whole process. If I was to look at this, which is a form, as you can see, this is a Google form, as we can see here.
Yeah.
we get the responses that will turn up in here, and we've got settings. Now, here's the interesting fact. You can have all sorts of responses, etc., and you can have all sorts of questions, as we can see. We can have multiple choice, short answers, paragraphs, checkbooks, drop downs, file uploads, which is quite useful because you'll sometimes find that people need to send images, etc. And we can have the date and time and things like that. You can have multiple forms going down that particular process. And within the Google Forms, you get the section there called responses. Okay. So this is a sort of holistic viewpoint, if you want to call it that way. You can also get a responder link, which means you can link it directly into a website or into an email, etc., from each form. And a lot of people use that. And another option that's available, do you have Microsoft 365, just out of interest?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So Microsoft sort of 365 gives you Microsoft Forms. A lot of large companies will use Microsoft Forms because that works similar to Google Forms. So what we're going to do is we'll actually ask, can Google Forms undertake this or Microsoft Forms or provide, I'm going to put it free alternatives because most people in business actually want an alternative that's free, totally understandable. So here's the key bit, as you rightly said. Bear with me, because on my screen that bit is smack bang right over. Here we go. Right, move it. There's nothing like a screen share. So what a GDPR compliant form must include, and I think for this particular video, that's very relevant. Who is collecting the data? So you're going to have to identify your brand name, and that's why you're collecting it. Consent, which generally probably is going to be a submission and disclosure notification, which you can get within the text box. So if you put a text box into a form, you can put that together. How long you'll keep the data. Have you got an indication of how long you would keep any form submission? Or have you thought
Eight
about it?
years for my
8 years.
insurance.
Yeah, okay.
I think
Uh,
GDPR.
yeah.
It's the,
Who's going to be able to access it and how users can request or delete? Kind of all makes sense, really. I think that is something we're all used to. And also, I would argue where it might be shared if that's relevant. So, not necessarily Peter's situation, but other people's situations may be relevant. Now, there is data minimization, not minimalization, but minimization, tongue twister for any video. Date of birth, full address, personal information, name, address, phone number, blah, 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 blah. So here's some of the options. Google Forms obviously can be used. We've already identified that. So if you've got a Gmail account, etc., you've got the option within something called Google Drive. I'm not going to open that up because I know how much content there is in there for myself, but it actually allows you to integrate Google Sheets. Do you understand why Google Sheets might have some benefits, Peter?
yeah.
Well, Google Sheets is effectively a spreadsheet. So the forms can then be put into a spreadsheet that if you had to email people later on about any updates, you could do directly off that spreadsheet because this Google Sheets could be converted to CSV files. That may be quite useful. Again, the consent boxes, etc. we also have the issues there. Google Workspace, rather than the person provides business data processing terms and administration control. There is a strong argument that if you're looking after data, enterprise level access and forms may be something that is worth considering. It's not that expensive. Um, Going on to Microsoft, the reason why I point that out is my personal experience of 365 is it's a very GDPR compliant system. Um, Having recently been involved with that in Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, it does give that integration within a system, which is quite useful. Again, Excel, like Google Sheets, that works through quite well and is quite suitable for a whole bunch of different things, particularly customer inquiries, etc. Jotform I have used for quite a while. You get to see very quickly the data. Again, it's very, very practical. Limited number of forms though. So unless you're using the pro version, you're limited. I think it's something like £10 or £15 a time on that particular area to run multiple forms. So again, that's something that you might have to think, which is the benefit to us, which isn't the benefit. But it's interesting that GDPR is built into Jotform, whereas Tally Forms, it's a feature. Form bricks, yeah, obviously GDPR's there. That's open source. Do you understand the concept of open source?
Yeah, I think so.
The concept of open source. Do you understand what that means? So
I'll say no then. Go on.
it's freely accessible. So it isn't charge based in quite the same way as other systems. So originally, ChatGPT, when it all started off, was all free, and one of the great challenges is we're using this on a free basis. Google Gemini, if I was to run the same thing, might give me a different answer on that, and I think I will run that through there. But certainly, Google Forms, simplest of tally forms, Microsoft 3 comes in as a third option, which is interesting how it's categorized that, basically because it's saying if you're connected with 365, which is a Microsoft product, there is explanation within Learn Microsoft on how to use 365. But then if you need to have a real in-depth stage by stage in your own pace process, uh, YouTube has loads of content. And there you have all the various links that are there. Now, what I'm going to do in this instance, we've just gone through that. I'm going to see what Google Gemini does on the same basis. So you've just gone
Because
through that.
when I'm looking at this, I give it the added context that I am a therapist.
Right.
Um,
Okay. Yep.
because obviously you could be any small business and
Yep.
handle data
Yep.
as any
Okay.
small business
Perfect.
owner, presumably. Um,
So add.
others, and there are certain um, apply more to certain businesses.
Yep. The consent forms in are for a business. Are there any additional factors that we could add in there that you can think of?
Yeah, of course. As I looked at my Gemini already knows the sort of therapeutic modalities that I'm trained in and that I tend to therapy
Okay,
setting. So it already sort of takes into account that we're talking
right.
in
So
integral eye movement technique
yeah,
and Reiki,
you've got
etc.
you've got obviously the pro version, I would imagine. And if run through Notebook LM, which we discussed the other week, you'll have already gone through some of that, made use of that to put some bits and information together. Now, I find I wasn't aware that there's an Article 9 condition and explicit condition, which I find quite interesting. Is this, would you like to explain a little bit more about that to me? Because I had no idea. So I can see here this one and this one is GDPR. So that's quite obviously relevant, is it?
Yeah,
Okay. So in any forms, if we're dealing with AI, if anybody's watching this video, they may wish to consider the various legal aspects that are additional to the standard content. And I'm thinking, for example, legal, um, where there is professional indemnity. So, from my viewpoint, I've had to construct for one of my forms as a drone pilot, I've had to actually take on board the CAA regulations that are involved in flying over groups of people or anything like that, and actually specifically asking for permissions for that where that is relevant. And I think that again, that may be something that we add in. Now, again, this is interesting. So that's gone for avoiding if possible. I'm also thinking, are you part, is it the Chamber of Commerce or Business Link or these particular bodies? Because they actually have forms available for different things, don't they, I believe? Or does any association that you have connections to provide forms?
yeah. I mean, online you can find different providers that will provide different quality.
Yeah.
The
So
only, the only the only issue is trust, isn't it? You know, something up
yes, I
online
think
doesn't mean that it's reliable or factual. So
no, no. But I'm anticipating that if you are part of an association, you would expect to have forms connected to any legislative body that you are governed by when you're actually providing or delivering a service. And
yeah,
that's where sometimes it's worth reflecting on, is Google or Microsoft Forms the right place, or should you be looking at the forms? The reason why I'm asking this series of questions
yeah,
actually is not knocking what we're talking about here, but if the form is used for anybody watching this video, and I know I've had a couple of comments come back that highlighted actually how useful what you said the other week was that where you highlighted the therapies and the different forms of treatment. It was very, very informative. So there was a couple of people actually say, could they pass, could we pass our thanks over to you, Peter, for actually pulling me up and saying, explaining what the sound baths were, and my complete ignorance in that particular area. So the comment went along the lines of, John, that was brilliant, but take a note, always ask Peter. Um, so based on this, what's your the preparation that you've done? How are you looking at taking the forms concept forward? Have you decided that, say, for example, Google is the right thing to do, or the information provided by GDPT or any
yeah.
of the others? What How's your direction being led by your AI research?
So my direction has been led. I'm looking for a, Google Workspace. Is it Workspace or Work?
Google Workspace,
Isn't
yes,
it?
yes.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm looking at paying for the basic one of those, which I guess or 5.99 a month, which is not a lot. Um, when you have just that basic one above the free tier,
Bear
it
with me,
gives you
Peter.
different
I will
options.
try and briefly share exactly what you're saying there.
Yeah,
So, oh, sorry, that's not quite what I was
different
expecting.
options
Yeah,
for the Google Forms. So where it makes them more GDPR
yeah,
compliant. Not more GDPR compliant, it makes them GDPR compliant.
yeah. It would make
Um,
a lot of sense to
tweak the
actually
privacy
embed that.
settings.
The chances are you're going to be able to embed that into either other things, whether you want to use PDFs or whether you actually just want it to come into your Google Forms or your Google Workspace system to allow for that. I would totally agree. I think that's the right way of doing it. Certainly within Google Workspace, you're going to be able to use and ask for all the questions that you want. You should be able to get the metadata through that will provide you the information that you need. And obviously, as we've already identified, Google Sheets will become quite useful because it gives you that backup of information. Because it's going into Google, you can save it on your Google Drive, which again is the compliant option,
Yeah.
matches the GDPR requirements. And I think you've actually got quite an effective solution there.
Um, of course, something I and had a look at um, for GDPR compliant form, because AppSumo is normally a
Yep.
go for these sorts of things, is it
Bear
not?
with me. I will get that up on screen in a second. Um, yeah, so app Sumo. Funnily enough, I've used that as well quite a few times, including getting hold of various items that have been extremely useful. So bear with me. I'm just going to load that up on the computer, and we'll go back to our share option as background, and there we go. We will share. So here we have AppSumo, appsumo.com. So did you look for forms on here then? I have to admit, I use TidyCal, have done in the past, which is quite useful as well. Helps to spell it right, doesn't it?
Indeed.
Um, so yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of different options there. You'll often find plans and things for that. You get a lot of lifetime deals on these things as well. Any other particular preferences on AppSumo that you like testing out?
Yeah, I've never ended up anything on AppSumo, but when I was considering a CRM, I looking at all sorts of different things that were available, and then
So
before I ended up
tiers,
bothering with a CRM.
yeah, different tiers, as you're rightly saying, Peter, different values to those tiers, etc. Um, I have to confess to being a regular consumer here in the past. Why? Because I like the lifetime deals.
Yeah,
Very, very useful. Are there any areas you've looked at recently that you've thought, yeah, for definite?
no, because task to task. Um,
Yeah. So you'll get the various tiers, descriptions of what's available within those. Often you'll get videos and graphics explaining. So there is the founder's video, etc. Yeah, both Peter and I fans of that. To be fair, very very useful site. I have probably got half a dozen things. I've done built a bunch of websites on something called Bolt.new. Um, I don't know if I can find that now. I don't suspect it's not going to be. Just check. No, Bolt's not available on AppSumo. Last year it was, but yeah, there's a lot of very, very useful tools there as well. Worth checking out if you've never checked that out. Do check up. You see, Peter's coming up with recommendations here. You've got to catch up when he's coming online with a chat with me. I like to pin him down. He's coming up with some brilliant ideas, folks. Checking out AppSumo. Any other tips for today, Peter?
All ideas given to me by other people over the last couple of years.
Excellent. Have you got any other suggestions that you'd like us to look at for future weeks?
Uh, yeah, so something else that I've toyed with for quite some time is recording
Now, is
instruments.
that screen recording,
No, not really just sound,
video recording, or editing?
just audio.
Right, okay, that's interesting. I've got some ideas straight away on that that I can come back with you for next week, if
Brilliant.
that's okay.
Because then
Um,
also I get asked regularly because and obviously, well, not obviously, but at the beginning of a sound bath, I'll guide just using my voice before any instruments come into it. Your voice is the most important. And
Especially when
so,
you've got a very calm voice like you have.
well, that and some training. But yeah, I can't help it. Especially, I'll, my voice will start to change, and you will notice the tone begin to. But I'm wanting to record some meditations, and then I was thinking to save any messing about with licenses. I could just record my gongs and layer them in the background of a
Uh,
meditation.
Right. Yep. I'm looking forward to it. I have got some solutions to that. There are two companies that have done some brilliant developments in those particular areas
That's
where
great.
they've got very good quality um, software that I use myself. So I can
I'm glad
recommend
to hear
them.
that. I've
Yeah,
necessarily the most tech savvy, which each episode of this will. Um, I have attempted to use all, not had great success.
okay.
So
So that's what's coming next week then. It sounds like a good idea to join us on the next episode. Peter, it's been absolutely great. Thank you for taking the time today out of your very busy schedule to join us. And
you too, John.
we look forward to even more. Sounds brilliant to me.